Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. I'm Jacqueline, and this is Makeup Tales. Each week, I do my makeup while I read scary stories or true scary stories. If you're interested and you like makeup and scary stories, you can subscribe and like down below. This week there is a disclaimer for these stories, so the following stories are intended for a mature audience and may contain graphic depictions, gore, sexual themes, adult language, some drugs. Viewer discretion is advised. Okay, so for this week, guys, I have 3 stories that I'm going to go over. 2 of them are from Reddit users. One is I Just Bought Love from Reddit user chair_Reddit. The other is Red Room Blues by Reddit user It's Time Ladies. And the third story is actually an original by me called Presents in the Basement. So let's go ahead and get started. Presents in the basement. I did it. My mom told me not to, but I opened them. I should have listened to her. I don't know what to do. I go to school. I have friends. My parents are still married and work normal 9-to-5 jobs. I have 2 younger siblings. I have the perfect life. But there's something strange about our family. My basement has these presents. Perfectly wrapped Christmas presents. They're in the corner in a neat stack, and there are about 13 of them. I remember seeing the first one when I was around 4 years old. I went to the basement to get my mom something. I don't remember what. I saw one present in the corner. When I returned to my mom, I asked her about the lonely Christmas present. She told me not to worry. She's preparing for Christmas. I asked every November when a new present showed up, and every year I got the same reason. Preparing for Christmas. My siblings never knew a time without the presents, so they have never asked. It's normal for them. I asked again when I was around 13, now with even more concern, as nothing happened to these presents. They never moved, only grew by one each year. This time when I asked my mother, she was getting annoyed with me. This time she yelled. She told me to mind my own business, and they did not concern me, and to never ask again. This time I went to my dad. I asked him why we keep these presents in the basement. My dad sighed, closed his eyes, and said it was my mom's hobby to just let it go. So I never asked again. I forgot about them, paid them no attention when I went to the basement. I told my best friend about them, but he just shrugged and said every family has something weird. His dad collects golf balls from famous golf courses. After that, I never mentioned it to him again. But this year, while going to the basement for some extra light bulbs, I looked at the stack of presents. It was only October, so the new one had not shown up yet. I decided I'm done. I'm done with the wondering and the guessing of why. Why did we keep these presents? Why were we not allowed to touch them? Why are they kept in the basement? My parents wouldn't tell me, so I'm going to find out. I waited until the Monday after Thanksgiving. It would be perfect. My parents would be at work, and I'm off from school. I don't have to worry about my siblings. They'll be in their rooms, checking on TikTok views. My siblings and I ate breakfast and went our separate ways. I waited until I heard the doors of the rooms shut and made my way down the steps. There was a new present. I stood in front of those presents for what seemed like hours. I debated with myself that it would be wrong, but my urge to know was too strong. The first rip of the wrapping paper was euphoric. Under the wrapping paper was a plain cardboard box. It was about the size of 2 shoe boxes, placed together long ways. I opened up the side that was taped down. I almost vomited at what I saw. Inside the box were what looked like 2 femur bones. I threw the box and paced heavily. What did I just find? I opened 3 other boxes in the same thing. Either a bunch of femur bones or a variety of bones. Then it hit me. My mom makes a special meat casserole every year for Christmas. She said it was a family secret. She would tell us the recipe when we were older. I fell to the ground. What have I been eating every year for Christmas? Red Room Blues by Reddit user It's Time Ladies. Go, my boss told me over the intercom as I heard the door open. A man stepped in and looked at me. I made a show of pretending to struggle in my bindings, though really they weren't tight enough. He then walked past me to the wall of sharp objects. I had to roll my eyes when I saw what he had chosen, the bone saw. The biggest thing we had. Compensating. I faked a whimper when he passed it on my shoulder, but he barely even broke skin on his first cut, not wanting to humor an amateur. I didn't even cry out until he really started to dig deep. Finally, he started to get into it. I panted a little as he dug the saw deeper into my flesh and pretended I was crying. But just as he was about to hit bone, he stopped. Pulling the saw back out, he circled around to face me. I gritted my teeth and looked up at him. He cupped his free hand to my face. Great, I thought, one of these guys. What a pretty boy, he murmured as he stroked my cheek. He then went on about some bullshit that I didn't pay attention to as I masked my frustration. I wanted him to finish what he started. I wanted to hurt. I couldn't take it anymore. I took matters into my own hands and lunged downward, biting into the saw. He jumped back in shock, causing the saw to slice up my gums and split open my cheek. The man looked on in shock as I pulled back, ripping myself out of the blade and taking a chunk of my mouth out in the process, which landed on the floor with a squelch. He stood in shock for a moment, and I couldn't bear it any longer. "Come on!" I shouted. "Hurt me! Do it!" Though, with my ruined mouth, it came out as gibberish. I kept on screaming until he raised his saw up once again and stopped when I saw black. I awoke in a gurney a few hours later with my boss standing above me. She wasn't pleased. "Christ," she muttered, while shaking her head. "Do you always have to be so fucking desperate? You completely took the client out of the moment with that." "Fuck you," I mumbled. I wasn't afraid of her. I was her only long-term employee, so it's not like she can fire me. She huffed in frustration and stood up. "You have another appointment in an hour. You're wearing a muzzle for this one." I rolled my eyes as she walked out. Now alone, I noticed that the inside of my mouth hadn't fully reformed yet, and parts were still tender. I stuck my thumb inside and pressed down on them and hoped that this next guy could pack a little more of a punch. I just bought love by Reddit user chair_Reddit. Me and my mom recently fought over why she married another man, so I searched up some websites to surprise her as a sorry gift. My curious self saw the website offering a surprise for both the gifter and the loved one, so maybe it's a win-win. I immediately clicked purchase. And then the mail came. Still waiting for the surprise party that I purchased, I opened my mailbox to see a red envelope with a pink sticker on it. I removed the sticker and opened it, revealing a receipt, a note, and a pouch with powder in it. The receipt showed my purchase. I immediately thought about it. It was the surprise I purchased. I was scammed. I checked the note. "Mix the powder in a glass of water?" I told myself that it's drugs. It looks like it, but I was desperate to love Mom. Maybe it's something that I can cool off my anger at Mom, or something that science invented. I opened the pouch and poured it in a glass of water. The water turned pink. I take the cup, took a big gulp, and closed my eyes to drink it. The first 2 seconds, it became dark, and then, as the room becomes a void, I saw Mom stepping from the shadows, but she was pale, lifeless. "Do you still even love me?" The raspy voice struck me as I felt like I was going to cry. She was slowly turning into ash. I hugged her tight in my arms. I didn't want to let her go. I need her. I respect her. I love her. As she was close to being ash, she smiled at me. She closed her eyes as the room was shaking and the ash flying around everywhere. "I don't want you to go!" In a blink, the room was normal again. My eyes are still wet. I grabbed my phone and grabbed a taxi. As I stepped into my mom's house, I saw her on the couch. I ran up to her and hugged her. We talked about her relationship, what we did the past couple of weeks, and then she went to the kitchen to grab some food. As I forgot that I still had my envelope with me, I opened it to see another note. Written on it was, "You can never buy love." I hope you guys enjoyed this week's stories. If you did enjoy them, you can like and subscribe. If you guys have a story you would like for me to share, my email is in the description below. And I will see you guys next week. Bye!